Hey everyone, welcome back to another One More Podcast. My name is Yuval, and I've got Blake with me today, and we've got hot, steamy questions, and we've got, really just one or two questions, but conversations to last for the ages, and golly, I just watched the Alex Jones podcast with Joe Rogan, and holy crap, that was all over the place.
He's a trip.
Yeah, he really is, honestly. It was like, and this is one thing as well I think is important to bring up. Whatever you think about Alex Jones, throw all of that aside. Just put all of your preconceived notions, put all of your, he did this, and my friend told me that, or I read about this, or I saw a clip of this, or whatever. Put all of that aside. Just spend maybe you don't have to spend 4 hours of your life.
It's really 5.
Yeah, I guess it's closer to 5.
4 hours, 40 minutes.
Just take an hour aside of your time. Just go like right in the middle of the podcast, like I think halfway is a pretty decent point. Yeah. Go there and just listen to like 30 minutes to an hour. And I think you will totally get a different impression of what has been kind of pumped out there, unless then I don't know, because I've had a totally different impression of him. So I don't know if everyone else felt that way, or because it's like I just remember him as the guy screaming about Sandy Hook and whatever, and
turning
frogs gay. Yeah. That's the only thing. But I mean, on the podcast, sure, he was very loud and he was zany and sort of off the walls, but he seemed like a genuine guy, and he seemed like he had something to say, and he did his research, and honestly, Joe Rogan fact checked him on a bunch of his stuff, and it all came out true, and so it kind of helped validate his statements and validate kind of his character, and I was just like, all right, this guy is not who I thought he was. So go check him out. What do you think about him? Like, do you have any opinion on Alex?
Yeah,
do you have a hot take?
I think he says it's hard to tell with Alex, because there was a few clips that I saw of him and Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks arguing, and Anna Kasparian calling him a fat F, and maybe that probably soured me on him just a little bit, because it seemed like he wanted to excite and for the sake of being controversial,
right? And I think that was probably the more he could agitate,
that's
more traffic
I think
he
he's
has.
an entertainer more than he is a truth teller. And honestly, I'll have to rewatch most of that episode then.
Well, I mean, it was definitely very, very interesting, because that's one thing, and I mean, I'm pretty sure I've said this hundreds of times before, but on the Joe Rogan podcast, I feel like he has he has a lot of comedians, and he does a lot of the MMA stuff, and I mean, that's totally has got a audience for it and everything, but the really interesting guests are like the people from just kind of different corners of the world. Like he had one talking about like there was a woman, I forgot her name, she was talking about medical history and doing a deep dive.
Blonde girl.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I forgot what her name was.
I forgot too as well. So we're both equally horrible people.
We're great.
But and so having him on the show, and it was actually something really, I think, was super prevalent. The whole idea of everyone kind of portraying Alex Jones as this person, and he said something that I thought was really interesting. Was I'm essentially paraphrasing it, but he was saying that the people will shut you down and people will silence you so that they can lie about you. And I don't necessarily have any specific examples of when people lied and when the reasons why, but
he gave some, because he claims that the media lied about what he really thought about Sandy Hook,
right? And I mean, and I think everyone is kind of at fault to that, because they're misrepresented or they're misquoted or anything like that.
Well, I think it was also just a touchy subject, and for anyone to try to ask questions and poke holes into that tragedy was immediately shown as
he could have definitely handled the situation better. He definitely could have been more careful about it. But I think that's just a fault of his personality and who he is, and we kind of have to just take that at face value. But oh God, what was I going to say? I don't know. I think it was the idea of him being kind of suppressed, and again, I hate to be drawing these bridges, because that's another thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk about Alex Jones this long, but I think it's still really interesting. That I pointed out to Cole, I was like, hey, it's really weird because the quote unquote crazy people, they'll find connections and everything. You know, they'll
it's
like
a conspiracy to a conspiracy.
exactly,
to a conspiracy.
and they can whatever logic or reasoning that they come up for it, they'll be able to do that. And I think people who want something, and I think people who want something to be true, they will look for that. They will see as many cracks in the truth as they can. And he didn't give off the vibe of like this crazy person. And I think, you know,
Okay.
he had some solid points of his perception of how things should be. And, you know, they kind of got a little metaphysical, and they talked about aliens and stuff like that. And I think there's I think there might be some truth to it. I don't know, but I'm only human. So moral of the story, check him out because it's important.
Make your own opinion on Alex Jones.
But speaking of, to follow into our transition, Blake, are we losing the path to redemption in today's society?
Absolutely.
Because it's like, what was the original thought of you're supposed to forgive and forget? What is that? I don't know. Was that from something?
Forgive and forget.
Sure. I don't know if that's a religious thing or anything like that, but it's important to understand that people change. And I think it's weird because we're blurring the lines between social media and reality. So we don't know who's being genuine. We don't know who's being fake. You can email me about something and I'm not going to be able to pick up your undertones, and I'm not going to be able to pick up your
being sarcastic.
Exactly. There's a lot of minute details that gets lost in translation. And I think because we're digitizing this world and we're becoming so more almost hive-mindy, that
it's groupthink.
But even then, it's like when I say something, and as a hive mind, you're gonna interpret that a certain way, and because everyone else is thinking that, you're self-justificating. So that's not even a word. Self-justify your reaction towards this person, and currently it is to, I guess, not let people redeem themselves.
Well, a person is smart, people are dumb. So.
Yeah.
You could talk to a person. Let's say a comedian makes a joke, because I listened to a Tom Segura and Joe Rogan podcast today as well. And Tom has a joke in his new special where he talks about words you're not allowed to say anymore. And he blatantly says you can't say these anymore. And like one of them was retarded.
Yeah.
He's like, you can't say retarded anymore. And then people would look at that, just watch that clip or that trailer on Netflix, and immediately just start wanting to get it banned. There was a petition of 100,000 people to get his Netflix special removed.
Wow.
Like it was out of this world. If you just watched his bit and knew the context of it, you know that wasn't true. Well, a guy confronted him on Twitter and said, if I ever see you, I'm going to stab you because you want to kill retarded kids.
Wow.
And Tom, or he didn't say retarded kids, he said mentally disabled children. And Tom tweeted out to him like, what's this all about? What's the big deal? And the guy explained himself, and Tom goes, watch this clip and tell me what you think. And the guy immediately, after watching the clip, responded to him and was like, yeah, my bad. It's like, you were going to stab me in public because you listened to somebody, you didn't go to the source.
It's so weird because and it astounds me that we're able to do this as humans, because I feel like I have a relatively good moral compass. I feel like I can get a sense of who you are as a person, what you stand for, you know, how you act, what your character shows, probably within the first day or two of meeting you, right?
Right.
But it's like how we can, so for me to get into the mindset of like saying that to someone, like I'm going to stab you the next time I see you, or I'm going to beat you up, or I'm going to do something.
Do you have to be?
Yeah.
Yuval?
Well, but it's also, it's not even that. It's like, I just, because if I'm seeing you in person, I see you as this other human with emotions and feelings, and I would never say something like that. But because they have this person has this agenda,
screen too.
And they are picked. Oh yeah, very much so. It plays very much into the being, almost dehumanized. So I'm just attacking an object. Right. I'm not really seeing that person as an actual other person on the other side. But it's also, I think, when in the case of Tom Segura, I think it was easy because he had proof and evidence right there, and that was the end of the conversation. Right. But I think kind of the moving forward, when what's really bad and what we should try and like move away from is people will generalize and attack the generalized idea. So you're in this circle camp, all right? So you're in thinking I'm this way and this is how my life and perceived, all right? And then here's your society and what you perceive and your values and stuff like that. And so you might be this guy over here in this corner, but society is this giant thing and your ideas are all different and everybody, but they're going to attack that giant blob. And when you're trying to defend yourself, you're not only having to defend just points and you're not defending your character traits and your values of yourself, but you're almost having to indirectly defend yourself against everybody, where it's like, okay,
it's all or nothing attitude.
Right. And so it's like you can, and so when you almost self-recognize that, yes, I'm not perfect, there are faults, that just leads to kind of, it's more difficult when you're trying to defend the whole, when you know that there are holes in, you know, the whole, as redundant as that sounded. But that doesn't lead to any kind of productive conversation.
No.
So I don't know. I just thought that was, and it makes me sad that it's like we're starting to see, because you know the whole thing with Kevin Hart and the Oscars and stuff like that. It was the Oscars, right?
Yeah, it was the Oscars.
Okay. And that just merely the fact that and I mean, gonna be honest here, a guy who grew up, and I mean, I listened to his life story on the Joe Rogan podcast. Everything is revolved around Joe Rogan, obviously. But he was, you know, telling up that, you know, he grew up in, you know, not so great area, and he
South
grew
Philly.
up, and he, you know, grew up with a lot of struggles and a lot of problems, and you know, it's like you almost have to imagine he would be the poster person of someone to host the Oscars, of the diversity, inclusion, and the how far we've gotten, and the everything, and the we're all loving people. But that didn't matter
because of one gay joke on Twitter in 2012 and 2010,
because of somebody's agenda to say, you know what, I don't like that, and boom, and because of that, we're not letting people just be redeemed in general. So the needs of the many, or I'm sorry, I would even say the needs of the few are outweighing,
or the wants of the wants of the few outweigh the societal needs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so one person or this small fringe group of people want this band, but they're loud enough, and it's kind of genius in an evil way how they paint you as an evil person. You are now an evil human being that should not have any chance at redemption, should not have any chance to publicly speak. It's insane how people have just taken a hold of that train and just effing rode with it.
And because I guess it's just, there's no repercussions.
No.
I think it's like really it's like, okay, people are yelling at you, but click, my phone's off. Now I can be very happy of the things that I did, and I'm going to feel good because I know I did something, but the rest of the world, I don't really care about that right now. I'll deal with that later, or I may not deal with it at all. But yeah, I feel like we constantly talk about this, and this is the only thing we talk about, but it's just so important.
It is.
God, people.
Adam Carolla was saying on his podcast, what would happen if we all in the entertainment business or whatever just stopped apologizing? We all stopped. So if I'm a comedian and I say a joke and people are getting on my ass, I can't believe you said that, blah, 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 you should apologize, we're going to pull your sponsors. What if every comedian, every entertainer, any person that says anything just said, okay, and stopped apologizing? You take the power away. Yeah, you completely take the power away.
And it was even to tie it to Alex Jones talking with Joe Rogan. They were saying about how much you're giving, how much you give in, because it's like you start with 1%, and then and then it's just a little more, 2%, 3%, and then all of a sudden
they take a mile,
and all of a sudden you're getting shows canceled and things, and obviously not justifying anything anyone did that was bad or whatever, but things that were taken out of context and old history that has been apologized for and has growth and changed in the expected, because that's the thing. It's like it's like training a dog. All right, you're gonna you want the dog to pee outside, and you want the dog to eat at a regular time, and you want the dog to not bark, right? Well, if you're gonna punish the dog for barking, and then you're punishing the dog for not barking, or you bring up the fact that he used to bark and you're still complaining about it,
we're not allowed to change. We're not allowed to grow.
Exactly, but where did that come from, though? That's what I want to know. Why? Who
I think
is
it's virtue signaling. That's what I really think it is. I think it's people.
So just a select group of people were like, you know what, I'm fed up with this, how things are. I'm going to start acting like a butthole to people.
But you're trying to show everyone else that you're a good person. You're trying to show, because think about how this is one of my big problems with social media is creating a fake you. Creating the you that everybody wants, that you want everyone to see. You're not going to show everyone your flaws. And so if you do that, if you're presenting yourself in the best way possible, then of course you're going to denounce any bad thing that has ever happened, and you're going to say it loud and proud. That's how you want everyone to see you. So when Kevin Hart makes a gay joke on Twitter, you want to be the person that everyone sees you as, which is the guy that is I love gay people. That is ridiculous.
Yeah. But it's okay, because so there's a couple divides here then. So yes, I think that is such a just ridiculously underestimated power that we've given everybody, is the fact that I was a super weirdo kid in elementary school, and crap that I did followed me, and just the type of person who I am. And then all of a sudden I'm in middle school, and now people know who I am because everyone talked about the guy of the thing and the whatever. And then it's like, okay, now I have a presence of the past history that I did. Not everybody knows. But as soon as we give someone the ability to go home and say, okay, I'm not that person anymore, I'm the Superman, awesome, I guess they will indirectly. I don't know, but that concept of virtue signaling, is that just an innate, like, I want people to know I'm good, so I'm gonna be.
That absolutely is.
I have this false identity of what good is.
Yeah, no one's being honest anymore. So I think if you were to sit down with a person, just a regular person that is pro-gay, well, whatever. Let's just take Kevin Hart's example because it's on the mind. Yeah, someone that's pro-gay that doesn't like a gay joke, if you were to sit them down and just have a conversation, they were really honest, you would ask them, it was a joke, right? You have to understand the context of it. It may not have been the funniest joke that you've ever heard, but it was a joke. And we all know that jokes don't come from a place of seriousness. They're trying to be funny. That's the point. I think comedians specifically have a important job where they're supposed to make us forget about all the bullshit that's going on in our lives. Comedians have, and rightfully so, the right of way to say whatever they want, whenever they want, because it's that important. If you were to talk to that person, just explain that, I think they'd probably come around. But as soon as they get online and it becomes a group identity of, I'm with the pro-gay squad. I'm with the anti-hate squad.
It's almost like you're fighting you know who the enemy is.
Right.
Anyone who associates with the enemy is my enemy. So that's so weird. I don't like that at all.
Well, I think we should also make a case, or at least narrow down what things are redeemable and which things aren't.
Fair.
Right? So even in today's society, it's
actually, real quick, before you jump onto that, let's take that and move that into the next, because I think that fits perfectly in the next topic that I have. So I have a question for you, and to keep on the same idea of what people can be, what is a redeemable, I guess, yes, what allows redemption, whatever.
Yeah.
If you were to live in a group, let's call it a society. It's not like we haven't heard that term a million times before. Yeah, thanks. So you live with a group of people, and everyone is all the same, and everyone has similar attributes and abilities, and everyone has wants to live. That's the kind of primary. They want safety, and they want to live happy and live long. And why not? Let's have some kids and let our kids have kids. These are our shared common goals.
Okay.
Excluding government, excluding regulation, excluding kind of the modern things we have today that we sort of build our society, so kind of the infrastructure that we have.
Okay.
Ignoring all that, because we don't need to worry about someone playing that role. We don't need to worry about, what are, the specific restrictions and regulations. But what could you think of common ground concepts, ideas, virtues, just things that people should all accept to live happily and peacefully together? So I'll set an example. I think it is really important that we all get vaccinated. I think there's a huge movement now that is against that, and I think that's there's a whole conversation about infringing on rights and what it is against the whole public versus the one and what it's that. I think it is very reasonable to have a medically proven, statistically safe thing being used to make everyone safer. I agree. So, like that. Also, don't murder. I think we can all agree that murder is bad. I think preventing that. Can you think of anything else that you would be?
Yeah, I think it starts with respect. So just respect each other.
Okay.
Respect your, and I think the 10 Commandments, honestly.
You think that's
for
pretty?
an exception of like 2 or 3 of them, some of the more obscure ones about the Sabbath and all no other gods or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a brilliant place to start. It was such a monumental moment
in building up Western civilization, what it is now. I think that's a great place to start. But all of that has to stem from respect. You have to respect each other. You have to respect
the path that you each have taken and your own thoughts and ideas. You just got to recognize
that other people have those.
Is this going to be because, and this is something that I personally have confused this many a times, and growing up being very, very, very frustrated and not knowing why. And, and I think this applies to a lot of people, especially in the work and the school and the friend group and the whatever. But what's the difference between respect and obedience? Because I think that's a lot. It's almost blended in kind of today's culture, where you have this idea of you will respect me, you will do what I say.
Yeah, I think you're talking about from an authority figure, but you're not my authority
Well, I mean,
figure.
even amongst peers, I think there's a when you hold someone in a high respect, you're more. I think people are more likely to do stuff for that person because they admire them, or they, for whatever reason, they value this person amongst anything higher than themselves. Okay, I think that's the baseline for respect.
I think I have an answer then.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Respect is mutual. Obedience isn't. So your parents, when they tell you to do something or take out the trash or do the dishes, you're obedient. But if you told them to take out the trash, you haven't. And also, obedience doesn't necessarily have to be earned. Right. Fair. But respect does. Respect is mutual. I can respect you. You can respect me. If you ask me to help you out, sure. But if you said, Blake, help me out, you're not respecting me. Right. You're not asking.
Right. I'm demanding.
Right. That's the difference. I think respect is mutual and obedience is a one-way street.
So it's like, I'm trying to think of an example. So like if, let's take the taking out the trash example. You had like a weekly schedule thing. And so mom, dad, brother, sister all have chores, and it's all displayed here, and everyone's got their fair share and everything's there. I think that's respect. The kids are doing what the parents are saying. They're ultimately listening and being obedient.
You respect, at that point, you respect your kids enough to know that, or to trust that they're competent enough to do this thing and to help out the family, because you've earned that. You've done your job. You've earned my respect for helping out everybody else.
So then laying it back to our society cake, our nice, delicious, perfect thing we're baking, would you say then everyone needs to have an equal share mentality? Or do we need that?
Part of respect and obedience is wisdom. And that's why we listen to our parents, because we don't know anything from a certain age. Right.
So then what? Listen to your elders, respect the elders?
Yeah.
Okay.
And honor your mother and father.
Sure.
That's one of the 10 Commandments.
So currently we're building Japan. I think it sounds like that's what we're building. I mean, respect, and that's a huge thing. The Japanese, they're
that's more just popular in Asian culture in general.
Well, that's true. But I was going to
take care of your elders.
Specifically, I was referencing. You can see the population age census, and it's like. And I learned this in my human geography class, where it's like there's certain stages of a country's development. And so in early stages of development, you have kind of almost a triangle shape, where the bottom layer is these are how many people, boy and girl, age 0 all the way up to 100.
And it gets smaller and smaller.
Right. And so you see that shrinking, and then it morphs into kind of like a hourglass sort of shape figure, and then it gets fat out. But what you're seeing with Japan and, a lot of those cultures specifically, I just saw it because they referenced Japan, where it's flipping, where now you see where you have now, because the culture is you let your grandparents live with you, you let your parents live with you, everyone, it's all about keeping the family together, and that idea of respect. And so you're seeing that Now and plus, obviously, with the advancement of medicine and stuff like that, you're seeing them this now living forever, which I mean, is great. But how much are they contributing to society and whatever? That's a separate conversation.
Yeah. Well, I also think as long as as we as a society agree on these terms and it's not forced upon us, then I think that's that. I think part of.
Oh, go ahead. No.
Well, I think just part of any great society is acknowledgement that we need to help each other, and this is a group. This is not a singular person. And so one of Reagan's quotes is, "Every great thing about this country starts at the dinner table."
Okay.
And so the greatness of the United States happens because we're all in agreement as a family and as a people to stick together and help each other out like a family.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And if we lose that, then society becomes splintered, in which case you can't really create this great utopian society that we're imagining because nobody cares
we're
about
making
each
a
other
cake.
anymore.
Oh,
it's
sorry.
Cake. Fine.
Sure. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Layered cake.
I mean, you want society and people. I want food and sugar. What?
Okay. What kind of cake are we building then?
A delicious chocolate, vanilla, banana, strawberry cake to mix everyone. No, I agree, and it's actually it's so weird, and because I'm the conspiracy theorist trying to connect everything, we potentially have lost that dinner table time.
I agree.
That we're not seeing each other, and it's weird because it's like with the internet, you're like, it's all about inclusion and finding your community and finding the people that you understand, and maybe people in Texas don't understand who you are, but someone from Minnesota might do or whatever, and now it's like there's a community where you can go and share the things that you love, but it's like that's not healthy because the thing that you're sharing is just one similar interest that unifies you. And so when there's problems and when there's differences and struggling of opinions,
be able to rely on the person from Minnesota.
Exactly. Well, I mean, not even that, but it's like the person from Minnesota might not be really your ally because because
you both
they like
AC/DC,
or The Office or whatever.
Right.
You have these. Oh my God! I'm sorry. I'm just I'm like coming up with all this stuff right now. It's like it's crazy because that's why we have so much problem and so much conflict on the internet is because at the family table, I know who you are. I know your likes, dislikes, what you did for a living, what you do in the future, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff. I can round you out as a whole person, and that's how I can empathize with you. But when people on the internet are talking to each other, only talking about things that they like, they don't talk about the things that they don't like because they're putting up a persona and a personality that they're not sharing. And so when push comes to shove and we're having all this bullshit and conflict, it's like, people turn on each other because they don't know who you're talking to.
They don't know who you are. We just know who you are.
God, the internet sucks. That's oh my God, that's so bad. And it's like, and I'm sorry for ranting, but it's like, because with Reddit and Facebook and Instagram, you find all these communities and you have all these people that are just so absorbed in the singular interest, self-absorbed too as well, because it's like, let me post this and make me feel good by liking my thing. And then it's like when that doesn't happen or there's a conflict of interest, there's even more problems that can happen. I know internet in our society. We're going to start our society probably around coming out of the 40s into the 50s of technology. And then we can, but we have modern medicine. So like no internet, but more bird relying technology.
Okay.
Or I send you a letter via bird.
Badass carrying pigeons.
That is our central of economy.
I brought this up on the podcast before, and I brought up Sebastian Junger, who's a war journalist, and he's been in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he was all over the place during the War on Terror. And he started looking at suicide rates for soldiers that would come back from World War I, World War II, Vietnam, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War, and then the war in Afghanistan. And around 1940, everything from 1917 or 1918, by the time the World War I was kind of drawing to a close, in 1942, the suicide rates among veterans were pretty stagnant. And then all of a sudden in Vietnam, you saw a shoot. And it's because this culture, we were so splintered that we didn't come together. And so a lot of these veterans felt alone.
Yeah.
And then as it kept going, the Gulf War kind of found the same thing. But the war in Afghanistan, we lose more veterans from just being in the war in Afghanistan than we have ever seen before. And he equates
in what context?
Well, just in
like
suicide.
Okay. Suicide. All right.
And he equates that to how nobody cares about each other anymore. In terms of like from a societal standpoint, we're all self-absorbed with our phones, with our TVs or whatever. And so these vets, they used to come home like World War II, where there wasn't a phone that you could escape to. There wasn't a TV, or there was, but it was 12 inches tall, and it was weighed 1,000 pounds. And it was black and white. We helped with, like, there was a sense of community. Yeah. And that's what we're losing. We are losing the sense of community where a neighbor is your neighbor, is your neighbor, is your neighbor, is your neighbor, and so on. Yeah. We're losing that. And we see
And is it because humans are changing, or is it because the world is changing?
Both.
So
the world is changing us, and we are changing the nature of the world.
I want to blame just the world.
No.
Humans are perfect.
I wish it was that easy. We're far from it.
Unfortunately. Well, that's going to do it for the show
today. And on a happy
note, humans are great.
Right.
Not really sarcasm. I don't know. I think humans are great. I think we have potential to do great, but we also have the potential to do great evil. But I forget who said that. I think someone said that specific. I don't know. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. And do you like Alex Jones? Is he cool? Do you reference him? Do you make Alex Jones memes? Send me some Alex Jones memes. That'd be great. I'd appreciate that. What do you think about a perfect society? Do you think perfect society would involve everyone owning a pet? Because relationships between humans and pets have tended to be more positive and the less depression, and people are more happy when they have pets. So who knows? Maybe that needs to be a rule. Maybe every single person needs to have one pony. That would be really cool. I'd be happy if I could have a pony. Anyways, guys, anything else you want to respond to, comment, anything like that, please do let me know. I'd love to have a conversation with you. So leave a like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And thank you guys so much. Again, feels like the 7th time I thanked you. So peace out. This is the end song. It is now over.